LinkedIn News.
For many of us, work has become a major hub for existential needs in a way that it had not been before. Work becomes a place for meaning, for community, for continuity, for belonging, for purpose. I mean, these are existential needs that people used to turn to religion and to communal life that are now transferred to work and relationships. And that changes your whole relationship to work, which then changes your relationships at work.
That was psychotherapist Esther Perel. I'm Leah Smart, and this is Everyday Better. Stay tuned to learn how we can shift our relationship to work and our relationships at work with one of the world's leading experts on human connection and host of the show, Where Should We Begin? Don't forget to hit that follow button to get new episodes of our show every week. And if you want to hang out with me more, you can find me on socials. Finally, if you like this conversation, I have a favor to ask. Leave us a review wherever you're listening so we can keep bringing you more conversations that you love. Hey everyone, from LinkedIn News, this is Everyday Better, a show about the tools you need to create positive change in your mindset, your work, and every other area of your life. I'm Leah Smart, LinkedIn's senior editor and a certified professional coach. I help people become better versions of themselves one day at a time. And every week, I sit down with a trusted voice so together we can explore how to take small steps toward big changes, the kind we plan for, strive toward, or never saw coming. A lot of times I find myself having an aha moment with a guest on this show, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, why didn't I learn this in school? Why wasn't there some part of my early education that focused on the skills we actually all need to face the opportunities, transitions, and the challenges that meet most of us grown-ups somewhere in our adult life? So in honor of back to school season this month, I'm bringing you conversations with some incredible humans inspired by skills, mindsets, and ideas that we didn't learn in school, but I think we should have. Over the next month, you're going to hear Gretchen Rubin's advice on making big grown-up decisions. We'll learn how to survive life-altering moments of change from behavioral scientist Maya Shankar, and we'll practice the essential skill of optimism, not toxic positivity, but optimism with mindfulness expert Case Kenny. Today, though, you and I are exploring how to evaluate our relationship to work with the amazing Esther Perel, one of today's most respected voices on modern relationships. I fangirled so hard, you guys. As a psychotherapist, best-selling author, and host of the hit podcast, Where Should We Begin?, Esther's work has helped millions of people understand themselves and their relationships more deeply. Now, you probably know her for her insights on love and intimacy, but what you might not know is she brings all that expertise on relationships to the world of work. Now, here's the thing. As kids, we are taught to measure ourselves by gold stars and grades. And then as adults, lots of us carry that mentality into our careers, defining ourselves by our accomplishments and using what we do from 9 to 5 or more to find a sense of belonging, security, autonomy. I mean, even our self-worth and our meaning end up tied up in our work. Just pause on that for a second. Is that you? I know that I am also part of that crew. So if it's you, you're not alone. Problem is, in the real world, the rules are different. You could get all the answers right on the test and still get no gold star. And in an era that's defined by uncertainty, it's a good time to remember that while our work can give us some of the things we're seeking, it will never give us everything. So if our work can't completely love us back, I wanted to ask Esther, where do we go from here? I sat down with her to try and understand, in a culture that worships careers, callings, dream jobs, and making it, how we can cultivate a healthier relationship to our work. We explored how to adapt when big life changes like parenting shift our priorities. Plus, Esther shares strategies for dealing with that difficult person at the office and building stronger relationships wherever you find yourself Monday through Friday. Here she is. I want to talk to you today about our relationships to work, our
And at work.
relationships at work.
Yes.
And those are two obviously very different things. My individual orientation toward the work I do, and then the relationships I have within that. Our relationship as Americans to work today, like the big picture, if you were to look at that big picture and say, okay, what is the society's relationship to work in general? Do you have like a diagnosis?
So I study relationships. And when you study relationships, ultimately you end up studying work. Because, well, we'll get to that in a moment. So what I would say the classic difference that you will often hear when people talk, especially people coming from Europe vis-a-vis the United States, is that there's a sense sometimes that Americans live to work and that Europeans work to live. That work is very, very central. The first thing you ask when you meet somebody is, what do you do? Before anything else. Whereas I just spent 10 weeks in Europe, and you can have an entire evening with people and you will never know what they do until the end of the evening.
That's refreshing.
Easy. It's rooted, I think, in part in Protestantism and in this work ethic and in this notion of effort optimism and in the notion of mobility. So it's tied with a lot of things. And leisure is defined as a piece of respite in between two phases of work. It doesn't necessarily have a value in and of itself until recently. I mean, I think that a lot of things are switching very, very fast. But in the many decades I have lived here, there is a sense that, you have to force Americans to go on vacation sometimes, to take off from work, to not feel guilty because they're not working, to feel that there is something beautiful in being idle and doing nothing for a moment. It is a doing culture versus a being culture. So that's the kind of received knowledge about Americans and their relationship to work. I think because of this global economy that we live in, that for many of us, work has become a major hub for existential needs in a way that it had not been before. Work becomes a place for meaning, for community, for continuity, for belonging, for purpose. I mean, these are existential needs that people used to turn to religion and to communal life that are now transferred to work and relationships. And that changes your whole relationship to work, which then changes your relationships at work.
Ooh, that's good. Okay, so if I'm walking in with this expectation, which I very much resonate with, like personally, I feel like I'm 37, so I entered the workforce. I worked at LinkedIn. It was my first job. So working in tech was, we are going to do your laundry and give you an amazing job, and you're going to love our values and be passionate. And that also means you're going to work all the time. And that's okay because your friends will be here and you're, et cetera. So it really has become the center of my universe. And as a kid, I went to church. Like that's what we did. We went to church most weekends until we got into sports. That was part of the center of our universe. And I don't do that anymore. I don't love that this is the way it is, but I do love thinking about this concept of where do we then derive meaning, because we spend so much time at work, thinking about work, doing work.
It's an identity economy. In agricultural time, we had a production economy. Then we moved to a service economy. And now we are in an identity economy. What I do needs to give me meaning. It needs to fit with my sense of myself, with who I am, with my other values. My company needs to speak out on the things that matter to me so that I can recognize myself and see my values reflected in the values of the company. These are very new structures of relationships between people and work.
Well, and so, I mean, this is going to be obvious, but what's the problem with that?
I don't know that there is a problem. I see it as a social change. I see it as a major shift. It's not a problem. It comes with incredible devotion and energy. And sometimes it comes with challenges. For example, if you are in a model that constantly talks about movement, which hasn't been your story because you've been here for a long time, but meaning you want purpose and belonging and fulfillment and growth and all of that, but you are on a 2-year rotation.
Right.
What kind of belonging can you have in 2 years? You want to belong somewhere, but you want to be able to be anywhere.
Yeah.
So that becomes a challenge. It's like certain things need time to graft, to deepen, to kind of sediment themselves. And if you are on a constant move because you have this idea that you need to go look what's next, what else is out there, how do I
Sounds
negotiate?
like the dating world.
Yeah. It's because they are processes of the same kind of optimization culture. And if you are in a constant notion that you have to optimize, maximize, then you are actually not experiencing a sense of belonging. You use words, but you're not actually living it.
Okay, so let's say that I've decided, as someone who, this is actually the situation I'm in now. I have spent, up until 2 years ago, really pouring everything I had into my work. And I've made 2 big pivots that I felt needed that. So I will say, like, this idea of finding meaning and purpose and all these things at work has definitely been to my detriment in some points, but at other points it's been like very pleasantly delightful.
So now, can I guess the challenge?
Sure.
I imagine, I may be completely off, but I imagine that you were very organized around work and around work being a primary source of fulfillment, meaning, income, etc. And now that you have a child, your challenge will be to accept that maybe your primary decisions are not about work advancements. And you will experience this with a little bit of dread, because you will wonder if your brain is going mush.
Yeah.
You will fear that everything is moving on and you are staying back, and how will you ever be able to re-enter? And you will have to reason with yourself that not to make every decision with work as the priority doesn't mean that you have fallen off the cliff. I used to see many, many patients a week. And when I had my children, I really slowed it down. And I began to be afraid that, who am I? I remember vividly, I was going to a conference. My oldest was 5. And I went to see what has happened to the field. How has it evolved? And I thought, I missed so much. Then I read, and then I saw that, 30 more articles had been written on the subject, but it's not like a revolution took place. And then slowly I began to re-enter. And there is something about valuing family life, valuing relationships, valuing children, without it having to be a split between those who work and those who don't work. It's very polarized here. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of judgment about it. People experience it as an either or, and a thing, 2 forces that are constantly, I don't do well here and I don't do well there.
Yeah.
When in fact, you're doing well here if the here is about something different than what it was. And that means that for 37 years, you did it as the primary thing. But now you met this person with whom you want to create a family. So let yourself create the family.
Oof.
And there is beauty in that. And it is not valued enough in this society. And the truth, I think, often is that there is something very beautiful to have a job where you feel already anchored, so that you actually can go and pay attention to other priorities in your life. That used to be called coasting, and that had a negative connotation. Yeah. Because you cannot stay still. Yeah, keep in movement. Whereas this period is a period where actually, no, it's not about movement. It's about anchoring yourself in a new dimension of your life. It's actually a wonderful time to continue to work, and at the same time to not have it be the primary focus that organizes your life. And it's a gift to yourself. And I think I would say this to a lot of working women in America.
Many of us are living in this culture, but we need to renegotiate. We need to renegotiate the way that we approach what we're doing, because we recognize that there's something over here. For me, it's my daughter and my family that's going to go so fast and that's so meaningful and that I want to pour myself into. So how do I renegotiate that relationship to work that's kept me that I say has kept me afloat and kept me going for the last, 15 years?
I think the meaning changes. You see, sometimes the meaning of work is intrinsic. What I do is what matters to me, who it makes me become, what it says about me. But there are many people for whom work is extrinsic. It means what it gives me is the ability to take care of a bunch of people. In this country, sometimes in other countries, the family that I left behind. So the meaning of the work is not the actual thing I do, it's what it enables me to do with and for others.
So I'm allowed to move from intrinsic to extrinsic.
According to Perel, yes.
I love that. I'll take
If
it.
permission is
According
needed,
to Perel, yes.
I will give you the permission. I mean, who am I? But yes, that is what shifts. I think that you continue to work, but what it represents for you in that moment is less about the next project that you do and the thing it's more about work enables me to stay in the world, to be active, to let my brain work, to have income, to feel that I have multiple parts of my identity that are expressed, but not at the expense of other relationships.
So even in a work-obsessed world, we can learn to shift our relationship to work. But what about our relationships at work? Coming up, Esther shares why it's so hard to have difficult conversations with our coworkers and what we can do about it. We'll be right back in just a few moments. And we're back with psychotherapist Esther Perel. So if, as we've said, all of these existential needs are being met, but let me not say being, we are expecting them to be met at work. You said then our relationships at work change. How should we be thinking about our relationships at work?
I think that the first thing I would say is this. We all bring two CVs to work. Our work history and our relational history. And that CV shows up with us. We, for a long time, looked at relationships in the workplace as soft skills, which usually meant feminine skills. And that usually means that you can really idealize them in principle, but disregard them in reality.
Right.
And these soft skills are now becoming hardcore. With AI entering, it is the social skill that is one of the last things that humans pretty much will have an advantage on. Hope, maybe, not even sure. So this is what people come to ask. They want trust. They want belonging. They want recognition. And they need a sense of collective resilience. I think these are basically the 4 pillars of relationships culture in the workplace. Trust, because it's the essential dimension. It means that you are going to have my back, that you stand by me. I can disagree with you and not face the consequences. It means that you won't betray me, you won't lie to me, etc. You buttress. That sense of trust is, always been there at work. But when you have extended families, large communities, a church or any other religious institution you adhere to, if one person at work bugs you, it doesn't have the same effect than when you are living lives that are much more isolated, solitary, without community, etc. And then that person at work that you have all these expectations of, you need to trust them more. Belonging, same idea. Am I part of this? Am I thought of when I'm not here? Am I held as part of the fabric of this community? Recognition, am I valued? Are my contributions noticed? And collective resilience, I think, is the very important one. We always think of resilience as an individual issue.
Yes.
And as a set of traits and characteristics that live inside a person that allow them to bounce back and to face adversity. But in fact, resilience is the ability to tap into the social resources. It's a different concept. And it's collective. When things go bad, can we come together rather than fracture? That's the 4. Now, when you come to work, what is it that people at this moment expect? Interestingly, there's a crossing that has taken place. They want psychological safety, which these 4 pillars ensure. Psychological safety is now being discussed in the same breath as we talk about performance indicators. So the crossing between psychology or relationship, if you want, with business is fascinating. We talk about authenticity, we talk about meaning, belonging. I mean, an entire vocabulary has entered the workplace that used to be basically non-existent.
Do you feel like the executives that you work with, like, is this what's keeping them up at night? They have so much responsibility and it feels like the world's so uncertain.
It keeps them up at night in the sense that it is generational. So there is a generation that comes with that expectation now. And the executives often find it very challenging to give feedback, to have conversations, with the people of basically everything following millennials, because they have a sense that nobody took care of them in that way. And that a manager is not a coach or a caretaker. A manager is there to ensure that, numbers and
the work gets done.
Outcomes are being met and the work gets done. So that's where it becomes an interesting challenge. That's what keeps them up. It keeps them up that people will say, I have a life. I need to leave now. I can't come tomorrow. I need a mental health day. That their sense of well-being has actually become more important than you just show up.
Just do it.
Just do it. So these two narratives are often in attention at this moment.
And what do you tell them?
The first thing I say to many of them, not all of them, is that these people that you are talking about are your children. You raised them. Boomers raised the Z. So now let's talk about how you handled it. I don't have the answers to everything, but you have different contexts.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get stuck in not being able to see what to do about a problem at work because you are looking at it in this very narrow frame. Take it outside of this frame. This problem probably occurs in different contexts of your life too. People say you bring your whole self to work. We always do, consciously or not. Work replays issues of authority, issues of recognition. When you don't feel recognized, is it really because you're not feeling recognized by the people around you? Or is it because there is something in your story that make you constantly make sure, am I being recognized? Am I being recognized? They didn't notice this.
Do they see me?
Do they see me? Do they see me? Of course, we all have a need to be seen, but some of us more so. And some of us are very aware when we are not and don't really notice when we are. So home comes with you to work. Work replaces all kinds of home dynamics for many, many people. Any patients I work with who deals with issues with their managers and their bosses, and you always end up asking, is this similar to some other relationships with authority that you have known before? The relational systems and the positions and the coping strategies that you grew up with come with you to work.
This conversation of family at work, or the experience we all have of reliving family relationships or relationship systems at work. Obviously, that means then we can hit roadblocks and we have conflicts. And because we have put so many expectations on work, those carry something heavier as far as emotional weight than maybe they would have, 40 years ago. How do we go about handling conflict at work, without, overdoing it? Or I think about almost how I think about conflict in my partnership doesn't feel like how I should think about conflict at work. And yet I work with people so much that it seems just as important.
I think that if you look at the 4 pillars of what builds good relationships in the workplace, the conflict is the absence of these things. And I like to use the framework of Howard Markman that I originally used for romantic couples, but that I now have taken into friendships, into work relationships, because it's very clear and very succinct. He says that there are 3 main things that people have conflicts about. And I like to say that it's not what they're fighting about, it's what they're fighting for. So what do they fight for? They fight for power and control. Who has the power? Who makes the decisions? Who goes to the important meetings? Whose priorities matter most? Who gets more budget, etc.? Power and control. If you don't have it, you will fight for it. Not about it, but for it. You will want more of it. Care and closeness, which is trust. Do you have my back? Can I lean on you? Will you betray me? Will you split off? Will you gossip behind? Will you triangulate? Will you compete? Care and closeness. And the third one is respect and recognition. Do you value me? Do I matter? These are probably, and if you look at the stories, you can pretty much assign each of the different conflicts to one of these three dimensions. What does that enable you to do is that it takes you out of the story, the details. It's because you said that. No, that's not exactly what I said. Does it really matter? I mean, does it change the fact that you felt dissed? Does it change the fact that you feel that somebody took this project away from you? Does it change the fact? Stay with the essence. So that's one framework that I find very useful. What is this about? Don't tell me the story. What do you think is the conflict about? And this clarity is part of what my colleague Ellen Bader, when she talks about, I said, what are the steps of how people should address conflict, having difficult conversations, which is really more and more challenging at this moment because we have less and less practice from little on. We don't play on the street. We're not having this whole ground for social negotiation. We have less and less practice of dealing with annoying, difficult, hurtful situations with other people, face to face on top of it. And we are working remote and distribute and nothing is helping us, having the muscles needed for these kind of situations. So she says, be clear, talk about one specific things. No kitchen sinking. You cannot address 10 things at the same time. I want to discuss with you what happened yesterday in the meeting when da-da-da-da-da.
Well, and is it, okay, so let's say there's I want to discuss with you, what happened in the meeting yesterday versus I want to discuss how critical I think you are. Those are two different.
Those are very different. And so the next thing she says is choose the situation and don't go for the character. First of all, by definition, I felt criticized. Doesn't necessarily mean you are critical. If I say you are critical, you are going to be defensive. Naturally so. Nobody likes to be defined by anybody else and says, this is who you are, and I tell you. So then I will tell you, but I was very complimentary last Thursday. You'll come with the one exception that disproves the whole theory.
Right.
So when you said this, that really upset me because da-da-da-da-da. So you stay with the situation, you tell the narrative very clearly. What is the issue really at stake? And what do you hope from this? Do I come to you because I hope you apologize? Or do I come to you because I want to be included next time? Or do I come to you because I could never go to my mother and talk about how critical she was or who they were? And I'm practicing standing up for myself.
Right.
Lots of reasons for why I come to you.
Okay, so I love this. So we're number one saying that we want to be clear on what we're fighting for, what we're pushing for versus about.
Yes.
So the thing under the thing is what we want to bring. In a way, you're saying it's not about this person only. This isn't blame. This is me coming to you saying this was my experience of this, and here's how I want to share it. And are you then saying, and here's what I want you to do about it? All right, so it's okay to say, I want an apology, or I want to be invited to the next meeting?
No, I think that to say I want an apology is really not effective because it's like saying to a children, say I'm sorry.
Right.
I mean,
it's okay.
Did they learn anything? Yes, they learned codes. But did they experience it? Do they know why? Do they think that they were understood because they felt that the other kid took their toy too or something? It's like there's more in this. No. First of all, sometimes I wanted to tell you, I didn't want to walk around with this. And I think that it creates a certain tension between us. And I would like to find a way for us to work better together. That's the goal, right? We are at work. I mean, work are impermanent relationships. They only matter as long as you're there. So I want to work better with you because we need to be able to deliver this on time. You don't need to be friends with this person. You don't even need to like this person. You need to be able to do what you are here to do together. And you don't want passive-aggressive stuff, and you don't want explicit aggressive stuff. Neither of them.
So I want to ask you this as as society at large, as what we've been talking about today. This is the big question is, where do we go from here? Where do we go when we think about work? Where do we go? I mean, we've talked about so many different pieces of this, but ultimately it is the way we relate to, well, I'll say to work. It almost is like the way we relate to our purpose, the way we relate to meaning.
So I'm going to give it to you like this. Many people these days are talking about how do we reverse the food chain? How do we improve it? How do we eat better? We understand that we've created a system that is making us sick. I think something parallel is happening in the realm of relationships. The most important thing we need to do, that is the kind of parallel in my mind with eating different food, is we need constant practice with people. We are living lives in a contactless world where you don't have to leave your house. I was talking on my way here about, a delivery system. And of course, it would be very practical to have this delivery system, but I thought there's something good about still going to the shop, So any situation that can increase actual interaction with real people is, at this point, part of our survival kit. We need this practice from little on all the way. We need to deal with people. We need to depend on people. We need to ask advice from people. We need to tell people what we feel. We need to ask them what they feel. We need to step out of the social atrophy that is crippling us more and more. I think we are entering into a conflict avoidance society. And when it doesn't avoid the conflict, it unleashes.
Wow.
It doesn't know how to disagree. It doesn't know how to be frustrated. It doesn't know how to be in a contentious situation without it becoming polarized, vindictive, enemy, unleash. On any topic. You don't agree with me. I don't like what you say. I don't see you anymore. I cut you.
You're done. Yeah.
You're done. I mean, and this is inside the families. This is inside our friend circle. This is not just with anonymous strangers. So that is where I put the focus at this moment. Do I think there's one solution to a set of issues? No. There's lots of things that probably need to be done. But in the work I do, it is about how do I maximize the social interaction between people on every front.
I love that, Esther. Thank you so much for being here. I could talk to you forever, and I mean it, but I so
it's a
appreciate
pleasure,
it.
Really.
Yeah, truly.
Same for me.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye-bye.
That was Esther Perel, world-renowned psychotherapist, best-selling author, and the host of Where Should We Begin? If you like this episode, you'll also love my conversation with Alexandra Solomon on what happens when our work lives and love lives collide. My husband was on that one, funny enough. You can find a link in the show notes for it, and if you give it a listen, let me know what you think. Everyday Better is a production of LinkedIn News. The show is produced by Grace Rubin, Emily Reeves, and Ava Ahmadbegi. Asaf Gadron is our sound engineer. Tim Boland mixed our show. We get additional support from Alex Kuznetsova and Mujib Merdad. Sarah Storm is our senior producer. Dave Pond is head of production and creative operations. Maya Pope-Chappelle is director of content and audience development. Courtney Koop is head of original programming. Dan Roth is LinkedIn's editor-in-chief and vice president of content development. And I'm Leah Smart. Thanks for coming with me, and I'll see you next week.